In this video, I want to provide an action plan for those who are in the more precarious financial positions. You may not have a lot of savings to fall back on, and you are worried about your job and making ends meet during the coronavirus pandemic and the financial resulting crisis. If you've seen the Godfather movies, you'll be familiar with the idea of a wartime consigliere. It's just a different way of thinking for a different set of circumstances, essentially. Well, broadly speaking, you kind of need that wartime consigliere approach to help manage your money during this very unpredictable time right now with the coronavirus pandemic. Again, especially if you're in a more precarious financial position. The reality is we need to acknowledge that deep economic pain is going to be felt, and some people are just more exposed than others. Here's just one example of how fast things are changing. Trevor Toome is an associate professor at the University of Calgary, and he shares a lot of great economic data and insights on his Twitter account. If you're on Twitter, you can follow him at Trevor Toome. And he recently posted this graph of open table restaurant bookings in Canada. As one would expect, efforts to flatten the curve would be taking a toll, and we're going to start seeing those show up more in the data. We're already starting to see job losses, and generally those who feel it first, again, are those in the most precarious financial positions. If you don't have a lot of financial capacity, here are some of the things that you can do or consider doing right now. And I want to be clear, some of these things will apply universally and people should do them anyway. But again, if you have good financial capacity, you may want to continue to direct money to businesses through gift cards, continue making donations to food banks, continue to support the businesses that you use in order to help them out. That's great if you can do it, keep on doing that. This video, again, is more for those who do not have the luxury of having good financial capacity right now. We know that we have a large income and wealth inequality issue, and I would urge the haves to continue to step up, as I've seen so many people doing. But we also need to recognize that most people do not have this luxury. And I want you to know you are not alone. So the first thing to do is an assessment of your situation so that you have some clarity of what exactly your situation is. So step number one, you need to figure out exactly what your expenses are right now. Likely, many of your discretionary expenses like eating out, shopping for clothes, and so on will be reduced already. But other areas of your finances will be increasing. For example, groceries. Grab your latest credit card and debit card statements and make a line-by-line list of all your expected monthly expenses in this sort of new reality. The next thing you'll want to do is start by trimming any fat that might exist in your expenditures. So we have a lot of, for example, monthly subscriptions, which maybe we don't utilize fully anymore. For me, I'm quite liberal with signing up for software service subscriptions, which have small monthly prices, but there's just a whole bunch of them. And they do add up over time. So doing an audit of all our expenses line by line to see what we still need and what we can do without is a great first step. And also consider downgrading as an option. It can be a compromise to help save you some money, but if you want to retain certain services or expenses that you still want but can choose a lighter option, you can also start trimming that way as well. It's not an all or nothing for every expense. Cut out the ones that you can, reduce some of the other ones that maybe you think, I don't want to give up on this just yet. That's okay as well. Next, if you need to, again, depending on your situation, you need to start thinking about maybe deeper cuts or more extreme trade-offs. You need to start thinking about what those would be. Again, especially if you're in a precarious situation, the more time you have to have a reduced sort of burn rate, the more time you have, period. So to start, you could just think about what you would cut if you still have your income, but you feel it's at risk. And if it does get cut, what would you do? It's good to think about what you would do in advance. So again, we want to be mindful of what our options would be. And some of these options, again, would involve larger trade-offs. Now, to help you with that exercise, what you might consider is starting a separate list of what your priorities are. What needs do you have? And if you can, do the best that you can in ranking what those priorities are. And so this separate list, if you take that and compare it to your list of expenses, it might make it more clear as to what those choices would be as to what goes first or what goes next, depending on where you are. Okay, so that's your primary budgeting. Let's now look at what support you may also have access to. So many countries are offering special financial support, and you should spend some time ensuring that you know what these measures are and how to apply for them. Your government's websites at the federal, state or provincial, and local level should all be checked. So for example, in Canada, there have been changes to eligibility for employment insurance sickness benefits and measures introduced for people who don't qualify for sickness benefits. There are special payments for lower income households affected through GST rebates and childcare benefit lump sum payments that will take place in May, and more. If you are Canadian, you can see my video that highlights some of the measures announced as part of Canada's economic response plan that was announced yesterday, March 18th, 2020. Also note that it's not unlikely that more support measures may be announced as things change. So you have to keep on top of this as well, because things are changing quite fast. Financial institutions have also indicated that they are going to be flexible on a case-by-case basis with customers who are in dire need and have been greatly affected by the crisis. So if you are in dire need, call them. I will point out that there are a number of programs that have been announced, such as the possibility of deferring mortgage payments. This may also extend to other types of credit. But I'll point out that these programs should really only be used by those that really need to. It's not a free-for-all. Again, it's only for those who are most affected. If you're not sure, call and find out what your options are. See this tweet from the head of CMHC, Evan Siddall, to that effect. Also, I'll point out that you may already have access to a skip payment feature. I know a lot of lenders and creditors have been making those features more and more available over the last couple of years. And again, you only want to use those if you have to, because you're still going to accrue interest, as far as I know, in every single case where these programs are being offered. And again, I'll underline that the financial relief options available from creditors and lenders may extend beyond just mortgages, but also may apply to credit cards and other types of loans. You'll have to call and find out what the options are. Now, once you have a sense of what your new burn rate is, you've got a new budget, you've taken a look at the different types of payment relief options and additional possible income support that you may have access to, you may find that you have more runway than you think. That's why it's important to go through the exercise and find out. It will bring more clarity to your situation, good or bad, but you need that clarity. In an upcoming video, however, I will provide some thoughts on what to do when it comes to accessing money to spend if your runway runs out. And again, I don't want to come across as being overly alarmist. This video is intended for those who are in the more precarious financial situations. I'm going to have different videos for people in different situations, including those with more financial capacity, so stay tuned for those as well.